volunteer group of citizens across Pinellas County that have joined together to come in opposition to Greenlight Pinellas. Greenlight Pinellas represents the sales tax increase from 7 to 8%, which, if passed, it would make our sales tax in Pinellas County the highest in the state of Florida. So there are many people who are in opposition to this $100 million per year increase in revenue to PSTA, and that feel that PSTA has a lot of room that they could make improvements within their current budget. So we have several things to cover today, and I want to get started. We have two different guests from out of the state that have come to join us this week. One is Randall O'Toole from the Cato Institute, and the second is Daryl McQuarrie, who has come from Nashville, Music City, and has written a song remarkably called No Tax for Tracks. And it's a great song, and we have copies, CDs for you to take today, and we hope that you'll share that song with others. So in bringing on Randall O'Toole is a Cato Institute Senior Fellow working on urban growth, public land, and transportation issues. O'Toole's research on national forest management culminated in his 1988 book, Reforming the Forest Service. His analysis of urban land use and transportation issues brought together in his 2001 book, The Vanishing Automobile and Other Urban Myths, and has influenced decisions in cities across the country. In his book, The Best Laid Plans, O'Toole calls for repealing federal, state, and local planning laws and proposes reforms that can help solve social and environmental problems without heavy-handed government regulation. And his latest book is The American Nightmare, How Government Undermines the Dream of Home Ownership. So Randall is here today to speak. He did a paper on Greenlight Pinellas, recently completed, and he's here where are you, Randall? Here he is right here. Thank you very much.
Good morning. One of the things that concerns me about the Greenlight Pinellas plan is something that almost nobody has mentioned on either side of the plan, and that is that in order to build a $1.7 billion light rail line, PSTA proposes to borrow nearly $1 billion and borrow it over 35 years. At prevailing interest rates, they're going to have to pay more than $600 million in interest on top of all the other costs of constructing light rail. That means that the annual payments on that debt, plus the operating costs of the light rail for just one line, are going to be 1/3 more than the cost of operating 40 different bus routes today. So for one light rail line, they want to spend 1/3 more than the cost of 40 bus routes. This is an extremely expensive project. It's not expected to carry that many people. Using their own data, it would be cheaper to give every single daily round-trip rider on that light rail who was previously driving a new Toyota Prius every single year for the rest of their lives than it would be to build and operate this light rail line. In order to finance this extremely expensive light rail line, they're going to have to impose the highest sales tax in the state of Florida. That will make Pinellas County an undesirable place for people to locate, either as a residence or a business. The data show that cities and urban areas that spend more on transit capital improvements end up growing slower than the ones that spend less. Buses can do anything trains can do in Pinellas County for less money and provide transportation that's more comfortable, more flexible, and safer than light rail. So for all of these reasons, the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority's light rail plan is completely inappropriate for Pinellas County. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, Mr. O'Toole, how much opportunity do you have to review all this information? I read your paper yesterday, and it's quite extensive and detailed. I mean, how much time and devotion were you able to put to the research on this?
Well, I read all of the background documents, including the alternatives analysis, the financial documents, the capital plan, the operations plans. I've done this for dozens and dozens of transit systems all across the country, and so it was I'm very familiar with how to do it. Looking at these plans, I'm able to spot things that most people wouldn't see simply because they're just filled with numbers, and it's a little bit intimidating for many people. I can't remember how much time I spent doing it, but I'll tell you that they've made it pretty clear that not only will this light rail line be extremely expensive, it's not going to relieve congestion. With 41 crossings, it's probably going to increase congestion. And in fact, I strongly suspect that they know it's going to increase congestion, and they haven't released that information to the public.
If this is such a bad pain, can you give us an example of a city that did transit in a good way?
Las Vegas. In 1990, Las Vegas had a low rate of transit ridership. Denver, Phoenix, Salt Lake City, competing cities, peer cities to Las Vegas, all had much higher rates of transit ridership. Those cities, Denver, Phoenix, and Salt Lake City, all decided to build light rail. Las Vegas decided to stick with buses. They bought double-decker buses, they bought flexi buses, they bought small buses, big buses. They ran buses throughout the urban area on high frequencies, and they dramatically increased the rate of transit ridership. They doubled per capita transit ridership. They doubled transit share of commuting. And today, ridership in Las Vegas is much higher than it is in Denver, Phoenix, or Salt Lake City, because those cities went into expensive rail plans that ended up neglecting most customers so that they can provide a cushy rail ride for a handful of suburban residents. Any other questions? Well, I'll be here for a little while longer if you have more questions. Now I think you want to introduce Daryl?
Yes, thank you. In listening to Randall speak, it made me think of the Ernst & Young report, and the fact that there are some omissions, major omissions, such as the fact that there is no provision in the Ernst & Young report to actually replace the rail system in 25 years from now. They need to replace the rail cars. They have a 25-year life expectancy, and pretty much essentially the entire system in 30 years. So there's no provision for that in the Ernst & Young report, and we as citizens should be very alarmed about that because this is a huge commitment, and that maintenance and those replacements are going to be down the road for our children. So we are making a very major decision on that. The next guest is Daryl McQuarrie. He's a very talented songwriter and performer from Music City, Nashville, who has written No Tax for Tracks, our signature song. I first became familiar with Daryl's work in April and was so impressed that I contacted him, and he agreed to write a song called No Tax for Tracks. He flew in yesterday, and they spent the afternoon yesterday out at Gulfport shooting a music video, which will be hitting the stores soon. Just kidding. And but the song, we are so incredibly proud of our song No Tax for Tracks, and of Daryl for all the time and all the emails back and forth and the research he did to come up with the song that is so on target. So with that, I'll bring up Daryl McQuarrie.
Efficient transportation, so they want to shove a light rail down our throats. Well, it seems to me like a peddling solicitation of the same old dog and pony show. They can't play those plans they've been planning. Go on and twist those numbers out of whack. They can talk that propaganda they've been talking. They can't have no tax for tracks. It sure is easy to see red signs flashing. It's too big proposition they call green light. I don't see any justification for $100 million tax hike. Well, they can plan those plans they've been planning, yeah. Go on and twist those numbers out of whack. They can talk that propaganda they've been talking, yeah. They can't have no tax for trash. We got brand new empty buses that cost a hell of a lot cheaper. So when you get your ballots, oh no, on green light in November, they can plan those plans they've been planning, yeah. Go on and twist those numbers out of whack. They can talk that propaganda they've been talking, yeah. They can't have no tax for trash. Listen, people, are you gonna take this? No! Are you gonna vote no on green light in November?
Yes, I will.
They can talk that propaganda they've been talking. They can't have no tax for trash. So they can't have no tax for trash. Oh no! Thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. We actually had him play it twice last night so that we could all sing along the second time. We had to get it out of our system. We all know the words. So thank you for that. The next thing I wanted to briefly go over is something that's happened just today. The city of St. Petersburg, along with other cities in Pinellas County, has placed green light brochures and yard signs at public city buildings for distribution to the public on one side of this issue. Here in St. Petersburg, these promotional materials, the green light brochures and yard signs, are being displayed at all of our public libraries in St. Petersburg, the public recreation centers, sunken gardens. Promotional green light flyers, in fact, went out in our water bills just last week. No Tax for Tracks has contacted the city via the city council, and we are moving forward with protocol to submit our yard signs and brochures to the library department and the city of St. Petersburg marketing department for equal space, so the residents of St. Petersburg may have access to both sides of this critical issue at the facilities funded by public dollars. We urge all residents and other municipalities to contact their local government for the same, and to contact No Tax for Tracks if you should need assistance. So with that, we will come to the poll portion of our program. And have we handed those things out? Devin, are you handing those out? We have for each of you a copy of what I'm about to read, which is a press release on the poll, and a copy of the poll question. So I'm just going to let you get a copy of that. And I think that what I'm getting ready to read is on the back page, and then you have the copy of the poll. And No Tax for Tracks has conducted a straightforward, transparent poll of active voters regarding the Greenlight Pinellas plan. Voters were asked if they supported the plan using language very similar to that of the actual ballot language, and voters rejected the plan by a 12% margin when including undecided voters. We are pleased to see that the hard work of our all-volunteer citizen group, No Tax for Tracks, with members spanning across Pinellas County, who have manned the distribution of thousands of yard signs and brochures, made phone calls, who have participated in over 200 community forums where No Tax for Tracks has given presentations to clubs, groups, and city council meetings, who have gone door to door talking with neighbors, has all resulted in our strong lead at this time, according to the poll results. Now, this is after the green light efforts, both by PSTA and the Yes for Green Light Political Committee, that have spent millions on TV, print, and multiple mailers, teletown halls. It seems the more people find out about green light, the less likely they are to vote for green light. In stating additional details surrounding the poll, pollster Matt Florell of St. Pete Polls, who conducted the poll, stated this poll actually had a very high response rate. We actually had 4,600 total responses. The first question asked participants if they planned to vote on November 4th. They became known as the Active Voters Group. This question that I'm about to read had an active voter sample, and it's been handwritten in on your copy, of 1640. It's a correction on that. How do you plan to vote on Greenlight Pinellas in November that will ask your approval to add an additional 1% county sales tax to pay for public transit improvements? Yes, 35.9% of active voters said that they plan to vote for Greenlight Pinellas. No, 48.3%. Unsure, 15.8%. It is especially interesting to see on the report, which you will have, that across all age groups, Greenlight does not have support, contrary to what they are telling the public. This is the link to the poll that is included in your document, so you can actually go online and pull up what you have printed there. And I'm glad to answer any questions.
So Barb, you said this is, because I know St. Pete Polls have kind of gone back and forth whenever they ask this question. You're saying that this is very similar to what's actually on the
It is,
ballot
Mitch. Yeah,
language?
yeah. It is so pure that we were, of course, very apprehensive about what the outcome would be. So naturally, we were joyous when we saw, because we were after the truth. We wanted to know where we stood after all of this work. So we tried to make sure that our question was just as pure as the driven snow. The only question that was asked in advance of this: do you intend to vote?
Parallels can you draw between this issue and the transit tax issue that the Hillsborough voters had to vote on 13 years ago? And does that still resonate, that issue, with voters over here?
Oh, I you know, that her question, I don't know if you all heard her question, but how does this relate to Hillsborough? I think that we now have lived through nearly 4 years of this. Those of us who have been active with No Tax for Tracks have attended meetings and followed this issue by going and sitting through hours and hours and hours of meetings. That even with all of this groundwork, all this planning, as is in the song, that we still see that it's the same results as it was in Hillsborough when it only played for about 8 months. So I think that millions of dollars of our money in Pinellas County have been spent on the same answer that was found to be true, close to it, over in Hillsborough. So that, I believe, is the parallel, is that people in this area are not interested in this highest sales tax in the state of Florida. They're not interested in raising our sales tax permanently from 7 to 8%. You know that it's not going to sunset either, like Penny for Pinellas. This is not a 10-year, we're going to vote on it again type of a referendum. This is permanent, and once we approve this, we are going to be living in construction from one end of this county to the other, probably for the rest of our lives, living with all of this. And we're going to be ending up with more congestion and not less. And I think that the people realize that, and they see the mostly empty buses running around. People are wise. So that would be the correlation, I think. Parallel.
Barbara, in the kind of polls that St. Pete Polls do is automated telephone polls, as opposed to a real pollster phone in a household, and making sure that he's talking to a registered voter. Do you have any concerns about the accuracy of the poll?
No, I don't have any concerns about the accuracy. I think that people are technologically driven today, and even young people, old people, middle-aged people that when they're said to push 1 for this and 2 for that, that they understand that concept. As a matter of fact, it's in many ways, I think it's more convenient to the person answering the phone rather than have to engage in some kind of a conversation with people. So it's efficient. It's efficient, and I think that St. Pete Polls is a real pollster. So I think that that this is just another technique that I think more and more we're going to is the robocall technique.
Right. The machine has no idea of knowing who's answering the phone. It would be like a teenager that can't vote.
Well, I think that when you have 1,640 responses, that somewhere in there we saw a trend. So it's not like we only called 400 people. We have 1,640. So that's, I think that is certainly room for error there, accounted for. Yes, John?
Cell phone users as well as landlines? Or how do you see that?
No cell phone users.
It's all landlines.
Uh-huh.
Are you worried at all that a lot of the younger voters have cell phone households now, like lower income voters?
Well, we have, you'll see in your response there that there was a response of all age groups. So there was no blanked out age group there.
It seems to skew more to older voters. So I'm just curious at the breakdown. It's because you're only doing
I really don't think I can be an expert on that, other than to say that the older voters are the better voters, than the most likely to actually follow through, even though they may respond that they intend to vote. Those folks do vote. We really haven't decided yet what we're going to do on that. We're kind of, we're open to all kinds of. We need to be very flexible, and we are.
Again, when you look at the poll results, it's 12% difference. Just looking straight at them, what does this tell you about the people?
This tells me that they are not interested in the highest sales tax in the state, truly, and it also tells me that they're not interested in a train going from downtown St. Pete to downtown Clearwater with 16 stops, like a carnival ride, that will take an hour to get from downtown St. Pete to downtown Clearwater. You know, this is not the way to the future. This is the past. And so I think that and no link to Tampa, no rail link to Tampa. This is not going to the airport. This is not going to West Shore. This is from downtown St. Pete to downtown Clearwater, and they make a lot of talk about the fact that it goes through Gateway and Carillon. But the truth is that if you look at the bus study that was contracted by PSTA, and it's accessible at the PSTA website, you'll see in the bus study that the lowest ridership of any of the bus systems is pretty much in the Carillon district. So there's not a call for transit service in Carillon. This is going to be from downtown St. Pete to downtown Clearwater. They're calling it 57 minutes because it can't dare be an hour. That doesn't sound good. And with 16 stops. So I think that people in Pinellas County are not interested in funding that. Any other questions? Okay. Well, we have some cold drinks you probably can use right now, and some snacks, and we so appreciate truly your time to come out today and listen to the citizens in this venture. Thank you.